All right, welcome to the session at JNUC, one of the first breakout sessions of the afternoon. We are here to listen to Ben Whitis, a senior, the title is super long and I'll probably forget a word or two. You can introduce it later, but senior support engineer and a few other words. And also Victor Vargas from Microsoft, who's a principal product manager. And they're going to talk about device compliance with Microsoft and Jamf.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, he isn't joking. My title is like Senior Technical Support Escalation Engineer. I asked for a longer one. They said no. Yeah, I work at Jamf. I've been at Jamf for 7 years. And this is Victor.
Hello, everybody. My name is Victor. I work for Microsoft, specifically working on identity part. So we have the opportunity to work with customers and with the product teams, working with Microsoft Entra, that I'm sure many of you are users of that. So super happy to be here today and speak together. Ben and I are going to be sharing the stage. We're going to be together for around 1 hour. I'm going to take the first section right here, and then Ben is going to show us a little bit more about what we can do with Jamf Pro for that one. So let's kick it off. To start, I want us to go back for a moment. Imagine yourselves around 2,000 years ago. There is this young Roman that is going to his city council, and he wants to claim the state of his dad that he passed away. Right there, identity becomes a really important factor in the Roman culture. This person needs to identify themselves in order to receive this estate. And they use different mechanisms in order to do that. The first one, the Romans established this concept of having many names, 3 names, 4 names together. So that combination of names makes sometimes the people unique. So you may remember characters like Maximus, Decimus, Meridius, right? Gladiator, for those who like Russell Crowe on that movie. So that was one way to identify people, having this combination of names. The other one is that every given family, they have sometimes a symbol for their family. And they used that token when they were doing businesses. So whenever you were acquiring a land or doing whatever, the family symbol was another token that was used for identity. And finally, you have to bring 3 people that knows you from your childhood that can state that you are who you are. So think of that, right? Identity is a super relevant factor for humanity since forever. And this is just one example of that. Since those 2,000 years ago to today, we have evolved to the way that now we don't need to bring all these things. We want to have a passwordless experience. We're looking to have the user to be able to just turn their machines and being able to use them and have access to all the things that it needs, hopefully with non-password being typing and not over and over again. When we see that and we see the time going, we can see how, and let me see if I'm going back, we can see how in the last 6 years, it's been a lot of progress regarding that endeavor to make life easier for users. In 2019, Apple introduced the Enterprise SSO, and that started to make the change for all of us. Now we have this app-by-app authentication that was possible, but that was the start to have that access to unify the Microsoft 365 ecosystem with the beauties of using Apple devices when we do so. During 2023 and 2024, Microsoft and Jamf have been working together in order to make sure that the depreciation of the All API works well, and the use of the Conditional Device API is the new way to go. And now we have Platform SSO as a way to go as well to make even more certain that we are identifying the user to use the device that they are supposed to be using in a way that guarantees that identity. Enterprise is not a game. We need to make sure that identity established and remains, and we need to have the zero trust concept that we're going to be talking later today. Based on that is that the Entra Device Compliance API come to the mix. We want to have the ability to be able to identify the device. Entra ID, which is the component that Microsoft used in order to give you access to your whole ecosystem of Microsoft 365, is the piece that is going to do that validation. We're going to have the opportunity to provide a zero trust environment also for Macs. What is zero trust, really? Zero trust, in a way to summarize it, or maybe oversimplify it, is to say never trust, always verify. But when we listen it that way, that may say, okay, so we're going to be asking for passwords every time, so we are sure that the person is the person that is saying that is. But we know that that is not the way to go. We don't want the flow of this person working on their device to be broken because suddenly you need to start typing your IDs, you need to re-identify yourself, you need to do all of that. So the combination of a zero trust environment with the passwordless capabilities seems to be a little hard to kind of make happen. And that is the effort that Apple, Jamf, and Microsoft is being doing together to achieve that when Microsoft 365 ecosystem is required. When we see what is the way that compliance is calculated, it's important to see what is happening backstage right there. We need to know from the Microsoft Entra side that that device is in compliance. Compliance means that FileVault is enabled, that you have your encryption, that you have your antivirus in place, that you have your policies in place. So all of that needs to be flagged all the time. So Entra can know that that device that that person is using is in compliance. And that applies to Macs, of course, but to any devices that we are using. More when people is bringing their own devices to work. We want to have that constant validation. We want to allow the company portal to be able to take those flaggings that Jamf is doing, saying, hey, we are in compliance, so we communicate that to Entra, and that Entra opens the door to the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, and hopefully no passwords needs to be retyped for the user. When we see the flow on how this goes, I want you to go to this diagram right here. And for now, we have three pillars in this one. We have the user, we have the Mac device, and we have the IDP, that in this case is Entra ID. What happens is the user is sitting, let's say that we're doing the device registration, that by the way, that's the first step that happens now when we're doing the Entra enrollment for a user into the ecosystem. Now the device is the first piece that we want to make sure that we are registering and acknowledging. And for that, the user is just going to type their IDP credential that they already have. The Mac is going to be sending that to the IDP. Then we're going to be checking those credentials to make sure everything is fine. And this is where platform SSO is different from any normal app login. Mac SSO generates the secure enclave, which is a bound key to hardware token that we have now to identify that computer. Two keys are created. The private key that never leaves the device, and the public key that is the one that is going to be using in the transaction, and is the one that we in Microsoft Entra are going to be storing in order to identify the device. But the private key never leaves the Mac. And that's something really, really powerful when we talk about security. When we see what is the big differentiation here, is that we are starting to talk about the user identity and the device identity. And even that those two are correlated, having the ability to manage both in different stages makes the whole security enrollment process something that guarantees that identity before we open the door to get access to all the different components. And by the way, here is a perfect moment to reinforce why this is so relevant. Because now it's not only about you getting access to your ecosystem in Microsoft and you can see your spreadsheets and your PowerPoints and your documents. No, it's also the fact that you have EI capabilities that users are having more and more every day in these few months. We have more agents, we have Copilot, we have so many different tools that the user have access that if a bad actor is capable to break that registration trust process and they get access to their Microsoft 365 ecosystem, they have access to many powerful tools. And that's why we need to make this differentiation. This is going to make that the phishing attacks, that by the way are the most popular, happens by billions every single day, stop to being so effective. Because even if this bad actor is so good creating this beautiful scenario in where you are going to get this cruise from the Caribbean if you type your user and password here, dear user. Or you are going to get this trip to the moon because you type your password and your user right here, user. Even if they do something like that and the user failed to see what's going on and provide their credentials, when we have the device identity also being part of the mix, now those credentials has no value for the user, for the bad actor. They are not going to be able to do much with that because their registration to the device is already part of what Microsoft Entra has. And that's the way to control that piece. So how this whole user registration goes. We saw the first part, the device needs to be registered. At the same time, as soon as the device is registered, this second flow gets triggered. Using the same IDP, user, and password, now we have the possibility to also sync the password from the Mac with the password that you have for the Entra ID. This is not mandatory. It's not that you must have the same password. Actually, personally, I invite you all to be thinking on the Mac to use the ping as a way to log in. Passwords, honestly, is not the way to go anymore. We are going passwordless, right? So we don't want to reinforce that. If you have policies in where you are forcing your users to be changing the password of the Mac all the time because of different circumstances, those use cases are maybe a little old already, and thinking about some other ways to manage that is the best way to go in order to guarantee that the flow is seamless for the user. Now, once the device gets registered, and let me just move here to my next slide. When the device gets registered, something important that happens is that during the device registration, as I mentioned before, that public and private key gets created. And we said before that that private key never leaves the device. So now Entra has a way to validate that user. That's why creating the user is the step number 2 right there. Device registration, number 1. User registration, step number 2. Password synchronization is part of step number 2 right there. Optional if you want to do that. But the reason that is in that order is because now that we are registering the user, we are using the public key in order to register that in Entra. So now Entra can validate that that user is coming from the right device, that wasn't intercept on the between of that, and then offer the registration complete for the user. But what this means for all of us in this room, many of you are managing the fleets for your organizations. You have gazillions of devices that you need to make sure that are following the right principles for conditional access, for policies for access. Now having the PSSO linking the macOS login with Entra ID is providing that real single sign-on feeling that we want to have. Because this is the beautiful part of all of this. This work that we do is probably the most relevant work that has to be done on IT. Identity protection is one of the most important factors on IT today. But we want to do it in a way that is seamless for the user. And when we see it in that way, we can see something like this. I want to show you this little video with the registration that happens when a user, and in this case, the user was creating his new laptop, configuring his new user right there. They type it in, the password in the Mac, so they are ready to go. They need to be a good user and click on the button on the top, right? The please register. In the future, that is going to happen automatically. Autopilot is coming to help with all of that and stuff like that. For now, we have that there going. We have to click on it. But what happens is something really simple, and let's try to observe while that happens. The user received the notification and is guided to the registration window. Behind the scene, that triggers the device registration, is creating both the device and the user credentials. And in the final step, is allowing the user to provide whatever PIN, identification, Touch ID, use their device in order to scan it to get access to the device and do the final registration there. With that one, gets logged into the tenant, and now the user is part of the organization with a compliance device that is registered, that is managed, that has everything. Takes a few seconds. We saw like 3 diagrams of how everything works right there. Really complicated when we talk about it, really seamless when the user feels it, right? So when I share with my wife, for example, about what is it that I do, well, what we try to do is something so fast that the user don't even see it, right? That's the real purpose of being passwordless if we do. It's something that we should not be even seeing behind, and that experience that the users see. When that happens, then we have the user register, we have the device register, we have both tied in, Entra ID knows about that, the password may be synchronized already as well, so this user is in a great position in order to start working, and this is pretty much the flow that happens when somebody is working. Right? You go to your device, being that you are in your browser, that you are using an application, and then from there, you are going to start asking for data that is going to flow to all the different pillars. We have the macOS, the PSSO broker, we have the browser desktop app, the IDP that is Entra, and we have whatever services that you're looking to have, access to this file, access to this application, access to whatever you want, and this is the flow that we see. When the user is doing that, for them, even that you see all those connections going back and forward, the security enclave being validated, the public key being sent, that validation happening, all of that is going to go super fast for the user, and they finally get access to see the ecosystem that they were looking for to see. So if we want to see that complicated diagram into a quick animation of that, we can see it right here. This user is in the login.microsoft.com website, is trying to use or to get access to the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, and then the experience goes like this. It's going to type the user, it's going to select the way to do the credentials, it's going to use whatever way they want to make that simple, using passkeys, using their finger, using pins. And then once you authenticate, no password was necessary for the Entra ID. That is already coming from the backend because we know that the user is who he's telling who is, and now he gets access to whatever he wants in his enrollment. A process that is seamless. This is what we're looking for to achieve, to have the ability to provide to the user an experience that really allows them to feel the desire to work. And this is an interesting concept, the desire to work, because when you get blocked all the time with, I don't have access to this, and this is failing, and this is, I'm typing my password and it's not synchronized, and all of that breaks the flow of productivity. And at the end, for us, the administrators of the ecosystem of devices and people in our organizations, that's the most relevant factor to follow. How can we enable productivity without compromising security? Zero trust, we said. That's the way to go on this one. One extra statement that I want to add is about the passwords and pins, right? So I don't want to ask how many people is still using passwords, right? Because we're not going to go that way. But yes, we want to invite you to make life easier for your users. Passwords is an old use case. The pin on the Mac, using the finger, using whatever other biometrics you can use, is the way to go. That is tied up to the hardware as well. On the same way that the security enclave as a vault is being hardware backend, the pin is also related with the machine specifically. So if that pin is captured for a bad actor, nothing really is going to happen if they don't have the device and access to everything else as well. So it's good to keep that in mind as a way to think on how we are evolving the experience for our users. To wrap up, the benefits of the platform SSO are big and significant. The users now can log in into their Macs with the Entra ID, and then from that moment, the flow can be really simple if we want it. It's going to be a lot better for us as administrators because you're going to have full control of everything going on right there. You can use the PSSO or the SSO extension for that, and Ben is going to explain us a little bit on that one today in the next section, but yes, the benefits are there. Timeline is moving across, right? Still the conditional access API is there. It's not in support. We already depreciated at the beginning of the year. If you feel that it's still working, it's because it's there, but you need to make sure that you have reviewed your flow, that you have a good plan right there, being using the platform SSO or the SSO extension, but you want to take advantage of the secure enclave as a way to guarantee the device as a hardware. Something also that is relevant is that all new Mac registrations starting, I believe was this month, are going to be using the security enclave as a requirement. There is no way to opt out on that. So any new Macs that you are getting into your environment, into your fleet, are going to go to this process to taking advantage of the secure enclave. All of those that you already have registered, they are going to keep going and keep working, but you need to be planning the ways to do that migration in order to take benefits of this. At the end, our purpose in Microsoft of this one is to guarantee that the user and the device are in compliance so we can give full access and all the beauties of the tools that we have in the beautiful device that Macs represent. That combination, and by the way, I'm a Mac user myself, even that I work in Microsoft, because it looks really nice. I enjoy using Microsoft 365 on the Mac because I like it. And we want to have that for our users, and making that simple and simple is something that we want. So Ben, I think it's time for you to go back to the stage, and you're going to be taking us to some of those device compliance integrations using Jamf Pro. So Ben, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Victor. So with all that background info on what things look like from the Microsoft side, now I'm going to contextualize a lot of that information and put it into the context of the Jamf Pro device compliance integration. So if you aren't already using this integration, or this is your first time hearing about it, the device compliance integration is an integration that uses Microsoft's Intune Partner Compliance Management API. It allows us to send compliance data to Intune, which then gets relayed to Entra ID for devices that are enrolled in Jamf Pro and registered with Entra ID. I just want to reiterate, the objective is to get a device compliance state into Entra ID. That's the purpose. To illustrate kind of what separates this out from other solutions, when you look at a device compliance integration with Jamf Pro, you just get to use Jamf Pro Smart Groups, which is a tool you're probably familiar with. And any smart group criteria that you can use for any other group, you can use for the device compliance group as well. So now let's get a little bit into the device compliance registration flow so that we can understand what's going to be changing with the move to secure Enclave. So step one, and this isn't going to change anytime soon, something needs to add a device record to company portal or to Entra ID and to the user's login keychain or secure Enclave. So right now with the existing registration flow, this is where the user opens up self-service and goes through the company portal sign-in. If you're already using platform SSO, that'll be what happens when the user clicks that registration notification. You can see when the device does get added to Entra ID, it shows up as this kind of a shell record. The MDM column will say none, and then the compliance status will be NA. It's going to stay like this until Jamf Pro has sent data for that device and Intune has ingested that data. So step two, how do we get Jamf Pro to send compliance to Intune? The first thing is that another client-side agent needs to run. And it is an agent in the Jamf management framework. This agent will perform an authentication on behalf of the user against Entra ID to get the device ID and user IDs. It's important to know that this is an authentication. This is actually part of how we verify the device is who it says it is. And after we get that information, we send it up to Jamf Pro through the Jamf binary. Step 3, after Jamf Pro is informed that the device is registered, it sends a compliance update to the Intune API. So this JSON blob here is the raw data. You can gather this in your debug logs if you really want to. There are a couple of other ways that you can check that data for yourself if you don't want to dive through debug logs. But one thing I just wanted to point out, you can see there's pretty much nothing in there except for what it would take to identify the device and then also set it as compliant in that second to last line. So we're not sending anything about FileVault or which AV software you have running. We're evaluating that and we're sending a compliance state. If you want to check out the data from Jamf Pro and you don't want to keep debug logs running indefinitely, there are a couple of different ways you can go about that. The first one is there is an API endpoint that you can run a query against, and that's what this JSON blob is showing. This is going to tell you the most recent data that we sent to Intune. We always store the most recent message, so you can always go and check. Additionally, there are some smart group criteria that will tell you whether or not the device is registered and whether or not it's compliant. Again, this isn't checking like if it's part of the compliant group. It's actually checking the most recent data we sent. So if you ever troubleshooting, why did things not line up, you can always look at these smart group criteria as well. In the bottom right corner, I just wanted to also point out, this is the application that we are sending the compliance updates against. And it's always going to be called the Cloud Connector for Device Compliance. OK, so after we've sent the data to Intune, Intune has to process it. Your user has to be licensed with Intune, and you can't be over your device limit. If you meet all the criteria, it will pass that compliance state onto Entra ID. You'll also note that the MDM column actually flips to Microsoft Intune. This is because as far as Entra ID is concerned, it's receiving the data from Intune, so it thinks it's an Intune managed device. If you have any dynamic device groups that are querying for devices registered through Intune, they will probably also identify these devices. OK, so now we have the baseline. We can talk a little bit about what's changing with the secure enclave storage. Before I go any further, I want to be super clear about two things. Number one, the move to secure enclave storage only impacts new registrations. So for your existing user base, if you have a lot of Macs that are already registered, the plan is to support those through the lifecycle of the device. You don't have to force everyone to re-register or change that scenario. The second thing, the secure enclave storage, it works with either platform SSO or single sign-on extension. So if you already have the single sign-on extension and you're not ready for the project of deploying platform SSO, then you're all good. Hey, Victor, can you grab my water? Thank you. I should have put a video in here. Sorry. Could you cut my mic for a second? Now I got 2 waters. OK, I'm just going to try to power through it. Sorry, my voice breaks. Think of me as Steve Ballmer. Platform single sign-on registration works a little bit differently. Like you saw with Victor's registrations, there is no self-service part. There is no manually launching company portal. Instead, when platform single sign-on registration completes, there's a client-side agent that we're already running. We've been installing this since Jamf Pro 11.9. So what this agent does is right when it loads up, it checks if platform SSO registration has already completed, and if it has, it runs a gather AAD info. That's to catch your new user scenario. For existing users, if you're going through platform single sign-on registration, it also listens for a notification from company portal. When it gets that notification, it will run its gather AAD info to inform Jamf Pro that the device has registered. I'm running a log stream on this screen recording, so you can see that for yourself. Welcome to JNUC. You're watching 3 PSSO registrations in 1 demo. All right. So watch that background screen. It's just running a debug log stream. And when the registration flow completes, you'll see a bunch of chatter in there. So you can see right when the company portal closed, oh my gosh. The Jamf AED runs it and does its thing and sends up to the Jamf daemon, informing it that the device has registered. This also kicks off Jamf Pro to send compliance data for the device to Entra ID. So now, if I don't keel over on stage, we can talk about deploying Platform SSO with Jamf Pro. So this is an MDM agnostic deployment. Jamf Pro is the delivery vehicle for this, and that's about it. So there are two things you need to deploy: the configuration profile and the company portal installer. Once you push those two things out, the authentication is direct between the client, macOS, and Entra ID. So there are a couple of different ways to deploy company portal. The first way, this is the legacy way, and the way that I still do it, is to grab the company portal installer. There's a static link there that's super not legible. But if you grab that and keep it in your back pocket, it always has the latest company portal app. And company portal does a good job keeping itself updated with the auto update tool. So it's nice to just kind of upload it once a quarter and then just keep it rolling. Otherwise, you can use the Jamf app catalog. It's available there as well. That gives you a fancy circle with better version reporting, and you can control versions from there. Next slide. There are a lot of guides out there on configuring Platform SSO, so I'm not going to get into all of the specifics. We do have a guide on our own documentation. That's that link right there. It's a lot of copy pasting, so we're not going to get into every individual key. I just want to touch on a few that are optional and might vary depending on your environment. So the first thing, the authentication method. There are two options, well, three options if you count smart cards, which I don't because I don't have one. There's a password sync method, which syncs your password to your Entra ID account, and then there's also a secure enclave key method. I recommend starting with the secure enclave key method. It's also the method that all of Microsoft's documentation recommends. So it's a well-beaten path. It's a better place to start. The other key that I would recommend pretty much in any environment, if you're going to be doing multiple user accounts on the same machine, you're going to want that use shared device keys setting. Now, one important note, if you're testing out Platform SSO, think about the use case of your machines. Are they one-to-one machines or are they shared machines? If they're one-to-one machines, does it make sense for anybody in your environment to be able to walk up to any machine and sign in to that machine? If not, then you might want to disable that create a user a login key. Yeah, so just food for thought. And lastly, this is kind of the big announcement. Wow. There's going to be a new Verb in Jamf Pro 11.21.1 that lets you check the registration status for devices registered through Secure Enclave. This has been a pretty common feature request because with Secure Enclave storage, you don't have access to that login keychain item anymore. I see a lot of people taking pictures. I will post this on Mac Admin Slack right after we're done here. And then also, when that version is available and I can write some extension attributes, I will also share those on Mac Admin Slack. There's a Jamf Intune integration channel. I'd recommend joining there. Yeah, so that's, I guess, the end. Victor, if you want to come back up on stage, and we can take some questions.
So I think we would like to take some questions from the audience. First, I want to clap for Ben here, because when you lose your voice a little bit, it's harder to recuperate. And you did it really well, my friend. So any questions regarding what we talked today? Pretty interesting stuff. We would like to see some hands right there.
Got a question. Hey, Ben. Victor, I'm Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a very simple question. If we're using Platform SSO and Secure Enclave, and the user has to change their Entra password, how does that affect what's in that Secure Enclave, or does it affect what's in that Secure Enclave, or is it just business as usual?
It's going to be business as usual for the user because the secure enclave is generated only once during the registration process. So once that is generated, Entra has access to the public key of that. The private key remains on the computer, on the chip, is backed out by the hardware, and it's not going to go from there. Even if the password gets changed for any reason for the user, that is not going to alter in any ways the device registration part. The device remains the same. The only thing that happens is that one attribute, to see it that way, for the user profile is changing, which is the password.
Right, I will come to the other side of the room here in a minute, but
To follow up on that, will there become a time where we can use the secure enclave and also sync the password back to the local device?
You can do that now in the way that one of the diagrams that I was showing today was that synchronization part, in where if you want to have the same password for the Mac that's the one that is being used for the Entra ID, you can do that synchronization if you want it. So that's possible today. It's not mandatory though, right? You can keep it different if you want to, but you can do that as an optional step right there.
Yeah, it's also to just draw a quick distinction. So you can use the password sync feature and you will get the access to the secure enclave backed storage for the device identifier as far as the device compliance integration goes. That works. I don't think you get the PIN, the pass key that you get with the PSSO secure enclave registration. So then in that scenario, if you do use the password method, stuff like changing your password in Entra ID, you would have to sync your password again.
When does Microsoft plan to support the new Tahoe feature where you can integrate Platform SSO during Setup Assistant?
Yeah, currently there is many catch-up going on. There is many things that we are celebrating. The support for the Platform SSO from the Entra ID site is in general access now, so we are doing that piece. Regarding new features, we want to improve a little bit the portal for My Info Security side, something that is coming there. We are evaluating as well part of the features of the Mac 26, but those are things that we are working on. I don't have like a specific news to share on that just yet, but yes, there is a lot of effort going on that endeavor. I don't know, Ben, if you have something else to add on that.
No, I don't have anything else. Yeah. We're ready for it whenever it happens.
cool. Here's another question.
With the Platform SSO, then you mentioned that we can't get the PIN. I think we can leverage Jamf Connect for that to bring the password sync, right? But if we're doing that, where at registration that creates the new user, and I'm only using Jamf Connect to sync the password, do I still need to have the create new user login, key, or?
Yeah, good question. So Jamf Connect alongside Platform SSO, that's all like a good conversation to have. So basically the way that I would approach doing that is use Platform SSO for the account creation after the first user. But right now, again, since we're still waiting on support for that Setup Assistant user provisioning, you can use Jamf Connect login for that creation during the enrollment process as well. The important thing is do not use Platform SSO with the password method alongside Jamf Connect. They will fight about which one is managing the password, and you will get frequent prompts to re-register. So as long as you're not doing that, you should be good to go. I would disable Jamf Connect login after registering with Platform SSO and just use Platform SSO for provisioning the new users.
All right.
Yes, you kept mentioning that the compliance information is sent to the Intune APIs. Does this mean that the devices will be published in Intune, as compliance, or we would only see it in Entra ID?
Yeah, good question. So the devices registered through this integration only appear in Entra ID. Asterisk, if you look up a user in Intune, it shows up in the device list under the user because that's pulling from Entra ID. But yeah, they're not going to show in your Intune device list. And you can't take any actions in Intune that would apply to these devices.
All right. So, Victor, you mentioned that this is going to be required, the Secure Enclave will be required starting in Q3, or basically now. Is that only for commercial or also the sovereign cloud environments?
This is for enterprise devices, right? That we're talking about the enforcement of using the security enclave when you are registering a new device into your fleet. So as Ben was mentioning, those that you already have there, you don't have to worry right now on those. But those new Macs that you start getting, those needs to be going through the use of enclave, being through PSSO or the SSO extension.
Right. So does this apply to just 365 commercial or like GCC, GCC High, DoD?
It's going to apply for all of them.
All of them?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I got to run to the back of the room quick here.
Thank you. Doing a lot of exercises today.
It's a big convention center. We all get our exercise this week.
You mentioned PSSO and password sync. Does that also synchronize the quote password and quote for file sync or FileVault? Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you use that password sync option, it does do that. And you can actually, one of the things I had in my slide that I didn't really talk about, you can also do PSSO authentication at the FileVault screen, too.
Hello. I have a question in regards to ability to force a sync for platform SSO to Entra in reference to conditional access. Or in the use case I'm talking about is when you enroll a new device, go through all the prompts, and conditional access is enforced, the lag time between the communication to the two is sometimes like an hour. So the user won't be able to log into any company resources and just has to kind of wait for that sync to happen. So is there like a way we can force that to happen like immediately after the register for enrollment?
Yeah, we should break that down a little bit further. So it's hard to explain why it would work in an hour and not immediately or never. So I would think like really fast or you need to do something. We should look into logging on that. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for you. But yeah, the timeline should be when you register with Platform SSO, because the agent is specifically listening for that registration to complete. That's when it sends up to the Jamf Pro server. You know, if it misses that bus, there isn't another bus coming. So, you know, if it doesn't become compliant within a few minutes, I wouldn't expect it to automatically become compliant.
So I just wanted to confirm, when you're leveraging the PSSO token, you can leverage it for any IDP application. Like we've got like a variety of applications that use our various IDP, like for example, say like Zscaler or Code 42, Crash Plan, and all that kind of stuff. So can you leverage this token for all of those applications, or is that something that's a future?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Platform Single Sign-On and Single Sign-On extension, they support any application that uses either MSAL or the native Apple WebView. So like for most your apps that don't use MSAL, they're gonna like pull up that web view that shows to the user where they would sign in. PSSO and SSOE can handle that. You may need to add the app's bundle ID. They're in the Platform SSO config, there's like a section where you can add a plist with all your allowed apps. And you can specify like Zscaler or whatever your app is in there, and then it should work, assuming you know all your other parts are in place.
We have time for about one more question, and then I'm going to go up to the stage and let Ben and Victor tell you where they're going to be able to be found after the session.
Yes, hello.
Hey.
Currently, I'm in an environment where we're piloting Platform SSO. And with the information that going forward, all new registrations have to use the Secure Enclave. Does this mean that HSDP 12 cards are no longer supported for Platform SSO?
If you're already using Platform SSO, then you're good. You just have to be using some form of either Platform SSO or a single sign-on extension. Can we get a round of applause for Kyle for running across the back and forth?
Really, it's really another round of applause for Ben and Victor, though. Really, it's all there.
Thank you.
Okay, so where can they find you afterwards? Because there were some more questions that I wasn't able to get to. We just ran out of time.
Yeah,
We're going to be walking around here, so happy to synchronize and connect with all of you. Happy, Ben, to share the stage with you, and thank you for your support as well. And I think it was a great conversation. Zero trust is the way to go, and make life easier for your users is the way to enable productivity. See you in the next session.
Yeah. I will be at the Jamf Account SSO Customer Success Bar. It's in like the main concourse. I'll be there pretty much the whole week, so come say hi.